Okay, you're good.
Some of you probably know that within the last week, we experienced the largest hack in our history. The hack was a malware hack where there was an email sent out with a link in it, and if one person in a company or anywhere clicked it, their entire network and all the systems on it would be compromised, and all their information would be lost unless they paid a ransom. There were over 200,000 companies affected in 150 countries, and this is a map that shows that. And it was a pretty bad attack, but yeah. And while most companies were sitting there throwing up firewalls and updates to try and fix it and stop the spread, a 22-year-old British cybersecurity researcher decided to think like the hackers and look through code similar to what the hackers used, and he found a vulnerability or kill switch in the code where he only had to spend $10.69 to fix it. What he did was he noticed the code relied on an unregistered domain name for it to go through, and so he just simply registered the domain name, therefore stopping its spread. Sadly though, any company that was affected either had to pay the ransom or lose information, so didn't manage to fix that. This was an example of a hacking, or just like a basic hack when, or like phishing thing, and those types of hacks are increasing a lot more than insider theft or subcontractor stuff, because they're very simple and rely mostly on human error opposed to hacker skill, so it spreads much easier and is much more effective. The other 6 biggest hacks in our history were against these or data breaches against these companies, also using hacking, skimming, or phishing. Now, when most of you think of a hacker, you think of a guy wearing a hoodie in a dark room, slouched over a computer, hacking into companies, but that definition has been changing. There are now two groups of hackers. Sorry, the picture doesn't really appear well in the lighting, but it's basically a white dash black hat. And black hat hackers are more accurate to that stereotype, and they are people who are maliciously attacking companies or people in trying to tamper with, snoop, alter, or access information that is not meant to be public. While white hat hackers, they are people who are hired by companies to try and breach into their systems and find vulnerabilities and then patch them up afterwards. Ethical hacking originated in the mid-1970s when an US government decided to test one of their early operating systems by hacking it for vulnerabilities and fixing it, but the term did not become more popularized until 1995 when it was coined by the vice president of IBM, John Patrick. And it wasn't until the mid-2000s when it started being used by companies more regularly. Ethical hacking is sort of unique in the way that you get hired. It doesn't really, it's nice to have a bachelor's degree or master's in computer science, but that never really means as much as the certifications and is used to get you more of a background in the cyber world and then lead you to certifications. In certifications, people always complain about how ethical hackers don't get background checks much, but they are very far from the truth, because to become a certified ethical hacker, you have to go through extensive background checks, as well as they go through everything about you and possible risks, evaluation and stuff. And when you're hired by a company, even if you have been background checked by a certified ethical hacker, the EC Council, they still do checks of their own and test you to make sure you seriously know what you're not just some name that you didn't hack your certification or something, so yeah. Alright, so this shows the need for ethical hackers versus the threats and stuff. And right now there is a 1.5 million job deficit in the field of cybersecurity and like ethical hacking, and it is expected to grow to 2 million or greater by 2019. Companies spend months trying to find a good ethical hacker that is well certified, and there and will be for a long time very much in need for the field of ethical hacking. The profession for it is expected to grow at a 36% rate up until 2020. These are the sources I used to complete the information on this presentation. Do you have any questions?
If they can hack into countries and companies, how do I protect myself from getting hacked?
Well, you can protect your device. Where did
We
the
lost
slide
the
go?
slide.
Huh. You're missing a slide.
Click it again, is it
Yeah, I
there?
might have skipped
You
one.
double clicked.
Did I double
Yeah.
click? Okay.
I was wondering where.
Yeah, okay.
Go to the computer and do it.
Let me go to the computer quick and see if I can-
Well, you can tell them that too while you're doing it. If you have the
Yes, I
answer.
will. Ah,
There it is.
okay, it skipped over it. The three main ways you can keep yourself safe from this list are: don't click on links you don't know. Make sure like type it in yourself or something like that, and have your systems up to date. Whenever a new system update comes out, do it immediately. They typically are meant to help you and protect you. And then last one is back up all your files constantly. If companies that were hit by this ransom attack were like, if they had their files backed up, they were able to just wipe the memory of their computers and load up a backup to avoid the ransom, but if they didn't, they'd have to pay it or lose all their stuff. So, very smart to back up your computer as much as you can.
I have a question.
Yes.
Who's being blamed for this current cybersecurity attack? And
This-
why?
There's many people being blamed for this current cybersecurity attack, mostly North Korea and Russia, since they are typically to blame for most of these things by our government. In
I thought it was pretty much the NSA that were.
oh yes, the NSA is also in trouble for this hack because they developed the technology used on this attack, but never told Microsoft about it. And the thing I read was that they were hacked and the information, like this hacking software, got out into another hacking group that used it. So it's inadvertently the NSA's fault. Mary.
What would you do if you hacked into your own?
You would hope you back up your.
He'd ransom himself.
Okay, that's the question. What do you do if you find out you've been hacked?
If you find out you've been hacked, well, there's not much you can do at that point other than hope you have your stuff backed up or look for ways around it, hire ethical hackers, hire cyber experts to maybe find a fix for it, but usually it's not terribly likely. Lizzie?
What is the advantage of ethical hacking versus other cybersecurity ways of protecting your computer?
Well, other cybersecurity methods typically rely on protecting the network without doing any testing on it or whatever. They're usually responding to stuff, while ethical hacking is more proactive and finds the vulnerabilities and then protects them. So it avoids attacks like this if you can get ahead of it.
David, do you have a sense for ethical hackers? Do they tend to be brought inside the company, or do they tend to get hired as contractors? Do they tend to be freelancers?
They are typically hired inside companies and work full time for them. Their hours are pretty loose for companies typically, and when they're not ethically hacking, which they probably do about once a month when there's updates, they are just monitoring networks and acting as cybersecurity people. Yeah.
People say it's harder to hack a Mac than it is to hack a Windows-based machine. Is that true? And if it is, why?
I mean, everyone's at risk no matter what software or antivirus they have, it's sort of universal. There's always ways around it, and people get more creative as more patches get thrown up. I don't know if Apple is really as safe as people think. It might be probably about equal, if not a little more safer.
Does that have anything to do with market penetration, like in terms of corporate structures? I mean, don't most corporations use Windows-based servers and
Corporate-wise,
Linux-based servers?
I feel like corporate-wise, Microsoft is better, but like say for your own personal computer, if you want to just avoid everyday viruses and stuff, Apple tends to have pretty solid protection for that.
Well, you had told me Russia and China had a particularly bad problem with Microsoft because it's pirated. A lot of it's pirated. And so they don't get the updates probably.
Pirating is usually a little bit behind and not as safe, and you can get viruses and other malware by trying to pirate, so.
Yeah.
Anything else? Katie?
Your last bullet on there talks about free Wi-Fi. Is there any way to protect yourself and still use free Wi-Fi, or is it pretty much putting yourself at risk no matter what?
I mean, it's typically pretty risky. I mean, VPNs can protect you somewhat, not much though. If you're on free Wi-Fi, your data is pretty much out there, so.
Just don't sign into anything. Don't use your passwords.
Is it true that your teacher took you over to Starbucks and showed you how to hack into Starbucks?
No, he considered doing it one day, and it was the coffee shop on his street that was new, and he was friends with.
New rumor.
We did not hack any company. Anything else? Okay.
What do you want to do as an ethical hacker?
I personally want to work for a bank, because that's typically where the money's at.
Oh, yeah.
How much does an ethical hacker get paid?
Most ethical hackers, after their first few months, they'll be making well into six figures. Lizzie?
On the note of working at banks, do you know what types of companies are typically using ethical hackers versus using like a preventative method of cybersecurity?
Most of them, banks especially, almost all of them are using ethical hackers because, well, they have special systems and stuff. I don't know too much about banking systems, but they want to be the most protected typically. The government uses ethical hackers, I know that for sure. And most businesses are starting to pick it up. I think Facebook might have been recently, and Apple. So that's all I really know about that. Katie?
Are there any advantages to working for banks versus going into intelligence? Because it seems to me like that would be the obvious choice, is going into intelligence.
So banks versus government is what you're asking? Yeah. Banks are typically probably more mainstream and safer.
You don't get kidnapped.
Government,
By the Russians.
Government probably pays about the same as well, and is a little tougher to get into. So. Anything else?
You think your family's gonna pass you? You think they're not?
We might buy them.
Just giving you a hard time.
You're a tough crowd.
All right. Should we stop recording now?
Just walk up to the screen and
Put your face right in it.
On the very back.
Big red button.